Welcome to the world of TrendPod AI. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on some recent aviation headlines, things that might have caught your eye. We're going to navigate through flight disruptions, technical challenges, and really what it all means for air travel, our mission. Give you that shortcut to being properly informed, beyond just the breaking news alerts.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen this sort of cluster of news stories lately pointing to some specific challenges, and particularly involving one pretty well-known aircraft type. Understanding these incidents, it's not just about the headlines, right? It's really about appreciating the layers involved, the engineering, the operations, the safety rules. It's complex.
Okay, so let's dive into that first story then. British Airways flight BA35. That's a Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner, London Heathrow heading to Chennai. Had to turn back. What exactly went wrong there? What was the issue?
So the core problem they identified was with the aircraft's flaps. And flaps, they aren't minor things at all. They're absolutely crucial. They control the plane, essentially, during slower flight phases, takeoff, landing.
All right, they changed the wing shape slightly for more lift or drag.
Exactly. They let the plane fly safely at lower speeds. So a flap problem, that's something you need to address.
Now, the initial pictures, they look pretty dramatic. Look like smoke coming from the wing. That sounds serious.
It really does look alarming, I agree. Easy to jump to conclusions. But it was later clarified that wasn't smoke, it was fuel jettisoning.
Ah, okay. Dumping fuel. Why do they do that?
It's a standard safety procedure, actually. Highly regulated. Planes often take off heavier than they're allowed to land, especially on long flights. So if you need to land sooner than expected, like turning back, you need to reduce weight. Dumping fuel is the way.
Okay, so it's about getting down to a safe landing weight. Makes sense.
Precisely. Stops you putting too much stress on the landing gear or overheating the brakes.
And British Airways called it a precautionary return, not an emergency landing. What's the difference there? Because turning back sounds like an emergency to most people.
Yeah, it's a really important distinction. Precautionary means, yes, there was an issue, like the flaps, but the aircraft was still fully controllable. The crew could plan the return, fly normally, land normally. An emergency landing implies something much more immediate, more severe, maybe requiring non-standard procedures.
So the system worked. Issue found, handled safely, normal landing.
Basically, yes. Passengers got off normally. It highlights the procedures are there for a reason, and they worked.
Okay, but here's where it gets interesting, maybe a bit concerning. The source, India Today, noted this was the third Dreamliner-related issue in 3 days. 3 in 3 days. Even if handled safely, does that point to something bigger with the 787? Or just bad luck?
That's the key question, isn't it? 3 incidents close together, same aircraft type, and definitely raises eyebrows and warrants scrutiny. But you also have to consider the fact that these issues were detected and managed safely. That could also be seen as the safety systems working exactly as intended, catching things early.
So it's a double-edged sword. Could be a problem, or could be proof the safety net is working really well.
Sort of, yeah. It's probably a bit of both. It means the aircraft and its systems are under the microscope, definitely. But the safe outcomes are also part of the story.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Another major airline, Air India, they've also had recent disruptions, and again, connections to the Boeing 787. Reports mentioned 3 international flights canceled. What happened there?
Yes, Air India had some significant cancellations. AI-188 Toronto-Delhi, AI-996 Dubai-Delhi, and AI-2145 Delhi-Bali. And in a couple of those cases, passengers were already on board, had to get off again. Always frustrating.
Very frustrating. And the reasons given weren't just one single thing, were they? It was a mix.
Exactly, a whole range of things. Extended maintenance, technical problems specifically cited. Also, crew exceeding their flight duty time limits. That's a regulatory thing. And for the Bali flight, even safety concerns about volcanic activity near the destination airport.
So maintenance, tech issues, crew timing, volcanoes. Quite a mixed bag.
It really highlights how many different factors can disrupt airline operations. It's not always just the plane itself. Air India said they were rebooking, offering refunds, the usual response. But they also mentioned bracing for more disruptions because of intensified checks on their 787 fleet.
Right. And that intensification, that scrutiny, didn't come out of nowhere. This follows a truly awful event. The June 13th B787-8 crash in Ahmedabad, 241 people tragically killed. That must have massively changed the landscape for regulators, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. A crash like that triggers an immediate and intense response. India's aviation regulator, the DGCA, Directorate General of Civil Aviation, they significantly ramped up their oversight right after.
And the impact was huge, wasn't it? The sources say between June 12th and 17th, Air India canceled. Get this, 66 scheduled Boeing 787 operated flights. 66 flights in less than a week, citing technical issues. It's staggering.
It is a huge number, and it shows the direct effect of that increased regulatory pressure. The DGCA wasn't just watching, they actively advised Air India, told them to improve coordination between departments, engineering, operations, ground crew, and, crucially, to make sure they had enough spare parts on hand to avoid delays turning into cancellations.
So it's about the whole system, not just the individual aircraft checks.
Exactly. It's the logistics, the planning, the communication. That all has to work smoothly. Canceling 66 flights suggests they entered a period of extreme caution. Any doubt, any minor issue, ground the plane.
Okay, but here's the crucial follow-up question. With all that scrutiny, all those cancellations, what did the DGCA actually find? Did their surveillance uncover major widespread safety problems with Air India's 787s?
This is really interesting and maybe counterintuitive given the cancellations. While they did advise on improving coordination and spares, the DGCA report stated their surveillance did not reveal any major safety concerns, and they found the aircraft and the maintenance systems were in compliance with existing safety standards.
Wow. Okay, so dozens of cancellations, intense checks, but ultimately no fundamental safety flaws found.
That's what the DGCA concluded for that period. It suggests the cancellations were driven more by that hypervigilance, the regulatory pressure, and maybe operational issues like parts availability, rather than finding the planes themselves were inherently unsafe or poorly maintained according to standards.
That's a really important nuance. It implies the system, while maybe strained operationally, was considered fundamentally safe by the regulator.
Yes. It shows the difference between operational disruption, sometimes caused by extreme precaution, and actual systemic safety failures. The core airworthiness and maintenance processes were deemed okay, even amidst all the turmoil.
So let's try and tie this all together for the listener. We've got the BA Dreamliner turning back safely with a flap issue. We've got Air India canceling scores of Dreamliner flights under intense scrutiny after a crash, but regulators finding no major safety breaches.
What's the big picture here for aviation safety and for the Boeing 787?
Well, connecting the dots. These incidents, even the disruptive ones, they actually tend to highlight how robust the safety layers are. A plane turning back safely, that's the system working. Canceling flights out of extreme caution, even if no major flaws are found later. Again, prioritizing safety over schedule. The focus on the 787 specifically does suggest it's under intense scrutiny right now, maybe due to its complexity, its maintenance needs, operational factors. It's likely a mix.
It's a relatively new generation of aircraft still, right? Lots of new tech. Exactly. Composite materials, advanced electronics, fly-by-wire. These require continuous learning and adaptation from everyone involved. Airlines, manufacturers, regulators. It's this constant cycle. An incident happens, big or small, scrutiny increases, procedures might adapt, learning happens. That cycle is key to aviation's overall safety record.
So this deep dive really shows just how incredibly complex aviation safety is. It's not just one thing. It's mechanical stuff like flaps, but also crew schedules, spare parts, logistics, even volcanoes, and regulatory oversight tying it all together.
Indeed. And it's that constant dialogue, that push and pull between the airlines, the manufacturers like Boeing, and the regulators, fueled by every single incident, every cancellation, that ultimately keeps driving safety improvements, which maybe raises a provocative thought for everyone listening. Well, we live in a world that demands efficiency, right? On-time flights, global connectivity, it's vital economically, personally. So how do we constantly balance that relentless drive for efficiency with the absolute non-negotiable commitment to safety? Especially when we see how even minor technical issues can ripple outwards and demand huge resources. Where's that perfect balance? Is there one?
That is something to think about. Balancing efficiency and safety in such a complex system. Definitely food for thought next time you're looking up at a plane. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of aviation safety.